Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we're here today doing a little bit of a PSA because once again, we need to talk about the concept of speaking with your wallet. It seems to be falling on deaf ears with a lot of people, and there's nothing more frustrating than seeing someone on Twitter tear apart a company like Bungie, only to look at their Twitter feed and see that they have hundreds and hundreds of hours in the game, and that they spend almost their time posting exclusively about Destiny, yet the name of their Twitter account is Bungo Sucks, and Bungo can't do anything right. You couldn't have your ass further over the top of your head, like you slipped an ass bag over the top of your head, more than people like that. If you want to see a change in the industry, if you're unhappy with the way things are going, vocally tearing apart anyone on social media, even if it's the CEO of the freaking company, is going to get you nowhere, especially after you've already purchased their product. It's too late. You paid for it, bro. You gave them your money. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people are within the mindset, especially when it comes to microtransactions, that, well, if I buy the game and don't buy the microtransactions, then I'm not supporting that, and they'll have to change their ways. Unfortunately, that's simply not the way it works. You see, they're not relying on you to make their money. There's a South Park episode that does an amazing job speaking on the social commentary of microtransactions back in the days of hardcore freemium experiences. A lot of the games we were seeing coming over from the East here, a lot of those MMOs that were hardcore pay to win. And they reference the idea of alcohol, the liquor industry, right? They don't rely on the person who buys a six-pack of some craft beer once a month. No, they rely on the person who buys the really low-end product in a 30-pack daily. They rely on the addicts, the people who have an incredible impulse to consume, to buy a product, to buy an item day after day to make their cash. So even though you decide that you're going to buy Shadow of War, but you're not going to buy any of the loot crates, it's irrelevant, because there's someone else who's going to spend enough money to cover you and probably 10 other people. I mean, if you really need to understand how this works, look to any article about mobile games. For example, there was a very specific instance about one of the Kim Kardashian games. A woman spent over $15,000 on these games. They pry on people who have addictive, impulse purchasing personalities, and that's where they make their money. And that's the same thing that's happening with microtransactions. They're relying on the person who spends $100 a month, $100 a week even on their microtransactions. So if you buy their game, it's not really a loss to them that you haven't bought microtransactions. The only way you're going to craft a change to see a change with these sorts of business practices is to completely deprive them of as much of their profits as possible. So a very large portion of people has to actually boycott the game. And you know what? History has shown us that doesn't work. Remember the Modern Warfare 3 boycott? It was a Steam group. Modern Warfare 3 boycott on Steam. You want to know what every single person in that group was doing when you looked at what they were playing on Steam? They were playing Modern Warfare 3. They didn't hate the game enough to stop playing it, let alone to not buy it in the first place, but they still decided they were going to bitch about it endlessly and even make a group claiming to boycott the product. A boycott only works if you actually boycott the product. And if you want to see change in the industry, moaning and groaning like an infant and calling people names and making up funny little names for developers that you're upset with isn't going to get you anywhere. Again, it just makes you look like you've taken your ass, turned it into a bag, and pulled it over your face so you can pretend that you have no idea what's going on and just bitch and moan through your own butthole. I sound salty because I'm just so fed up with people acting like there isn't a clear-cut way to make a change. They just don't want to. You have to stop buying these products. If you seriously have a problem, don't buy them. Don't buy them. It's as simple as that. Let me stop myself for just a second. Just as important as boycotting and not buying these products that are doing the things you don't want to see the industry do is to buy the products that are doing the things you do want to see the industry do. So games like The Witcher, games that are going out of their way to give the player a lot of content, a lot of value for their initial money, and then making sure that they maybe give the player some free content along the way to say, hey, thanks for continuing to play our game. And then they drop something like 2 really incredibly meaty expansions that are insanely well priced, and they never put a single gameplay focused randomized microtransaction in their game. You have to support those sorts of developers and publishers making products like that. You have to show the rest of the industry these games can sell as well, if not better, than your product that is trying to nickel and dime you at every corner. That is as equally as important as the boycott of the products you don't like. Keep that in mind. If you don't have a problem with them and you're fine with buying the product, then that's the end of that. You can't stop someone else from making a purchase decision. If someone else says, no, I'm fine, I'm going to buy Shadow of War, I'm going to buy Assassin's Creed because honestly, I don't really care. Microtransactions are there. If they want to keep putting them in the game, that's fine, you know? There's always a bigger discussion to be had about long-term implications. Well, what happens if microtransactions start affecting gameplay more than they already do? What if they start, blocking things off behind random gambling-based microtransactions? Yeah, that stuff's all dangerous. It's an interesting time for the industry. There's no doubt about that. But I'm telling you right now, if you are frustrated with any of these things, there is a very, very simple answer to what you can do to start to push things in the direction you want them to go. Stop buying the products. No, don't just stop buying the in-game credits, the in-game currency, the in-game items. Stop buying the products entirely. If you sit here and tell me on social media that you can't stand loot crates and this is going to be the death of the industry, but you buy the games anyways, you are a massive hypocrite and you will never see the change that you want to see. In fact, you will be the fuel to the fire that burns any chance of the change that you want to see. So, now that the line has been drawn in the sand, ask yourself how you feel about these things genuinely. And are you willing to stop playing the games that you probably actually enjoy quite a bit in order to see the changes you want to see? Or are you just going to accept the fact that these things are happening and see where the industry takes them? The harsh reality for a lot of people who purchase games right now is that they don't understand just how much it costs to make video games. Just because they're massive corporations and you see them, well, look at that profit they turned. Unless you do real research, you have no idea how much it costs to run a company like that on a yearly basis. And I'm not saying that some of these companies aren't turning more than enough profit and they're taking extra profits where they don't need to take them. But in a lot of the instances, this is the cost of AAA game development. It's just the way it is. It's why we really do need to see the return of the middle market. We need to see games like Hellblade and CD Projekt, with The Witcher doing better, because the middle market is that place where developers can make a game, they can make a product, and they don't have to worry about turning this billion-dollar profit because they don't have a billion-dollar marketing campaign. They don't have 1,500 people working on just 50% of the level for a game like Assassin's Creed Origins. Games are incredibly expensive to make, and reality is they're quite affordable compared to the cost they take to make them for us to purchase them. So these changes are going to happen, and you have to ask yourself, what hand do you want to force towards these developers and towards these publishers? It's all on you. It's all on the consumer here. We have full control. Let me give you a very, very simple analogy. You have a deli at the end of your street. They've been making subs for a really long time, and one day, all of a sudden, they decide that they're going to do away with the 4 different kinds of bread they used to have. They used to have like a hearty Italian, they'd have like a whole wheat, they'd have a gluten-free option, and they're just like, we're done with this. Too much of a hassle. We got white bread. Take it or leave it, right? And so all of a sudden, a bunch of people are like, well, man, I only came here because of this. I can't have gluten. Now I'm not going to come, I can't come here anymore. If they all make a compromise and just keep going there and buying the white bread and saying, well, I really do like the subs, I can deal with the white bread, then the place is going to stay in business. But if 50% of that customer base is 25% even potentially decides, no, this is nonsense, I'm going to go to Bob's sub shop, which is only another mile away in reality. It costs a little bit more, but he has all of the things I'd like to have in terms of my roll options for my subs. That guy is going to take a huge cut to his profit margin. It's going to be noticeable. He's either going to make a change or he's going to slowly potentially go out of business. When it comes to the restaurant industry, especially fast food and like delis like that, especially here where I live in the East Coast, that's how simple it is to go out of business. That's how competitive these places are because there's so many of them. In a lot of ways, it could be the same thing with game developers and with publishers. It's just all about the consumer making the choice, Of course, things are they're exemplified a little bit more. You know, we have a lot more people playing games, buying games like Assassin's Creed than that sub shop has. But just look at it as a ratio, you know, and you need to have that large group of people actually boycotting the product if you want to see a change. Really, you know, take this as a massive piece of food for thought, a full-on hero, like the length of a table, if you will. Eat that whole thing. Think about what I've said here, and if you're asking yourself how you can make the change you want to see, remember this very, very simple ideology. Speak with your wallet. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, remember to play smart, remember to play to challenge yourself, but most importantly, remember to play for fun.